So next is Michael Grubb, and then Jessica Sturdivant, Matt Mahoney, Meredith Berg.
Good evening. My name is Michael Grubb. I live at 12 Elm Court in West Newton, and I have a daughter in kindergarten at Burr Elementary. We love Burr, her amazing teachers and principal, and the excellent education she's getting there. However, like parents throughout the country since the water problems in Flint, I'm extremely concerned to learn that similar lead conditions exist in my own city, in particular at Burr Elementary and probably also at Cabot. Last week, ongoing testing at Burr Elementary revealed lead levels more than 50% higher than the EPA definition of toxic waste in a pipe previously connected to the drinking fountain outside my daughter's classroom. But this is not the first time testing has revealed toxic lead levels at Burr. Public records that Jessica Sturdivant and I requested from the City Hall show that city and school officials have known since 2005 that there is lead contamination at Burr Elementary above the state action threshold. A kitchen sink measured above the action threshold in both 2005 and 2010. The district's response was pitifully inadequate, amounting to little more than placing a warning sign above the sink in 2012. That is too little, too late. Mass DEP response guidelines indicate that school officials should have acted immediately to stop exposure by turning off fountains, flushing sinks, providing bottled water, and communicating to parents and staff. Secondly, they should have investigated to find the source in order to take action to eliminate the lead. I'm glad that the district is finally taking real action at Burr. In fact, I feel lucky. Only 2 of 7 fountains in round 2 of testing at Burr last month measured below the action threshold. Had by chance the district sampled only those 2 fountains in its initial test this year, the problem would have remained undiscovered, and my daughter would still be drinking lead at the fountain each morning. Perhaps this is the current plight of children at Cabot. Cabot is Burr's testing buddy, so I learned on Friday from my request for Burr records that Cabot water was measured at 131 times above the state action threshold in 2005. The water at Cabot could easily be as bad as at Burr, and yet their fountains are still on. For 11 years, students at Burr Elementary, probably also at Cabot, and possibly other Newton schools, have been exposed to lead levels in some cases far above the state action threshold. In all likelihood, this lead exposure would have been avoided had the school district been following Mass DEP guidelines. I asked the school committee and the superintendent to adopt these guidelines now as district policy. For the safety of our children today and in the future, I also ask you immediately to do 5 things beginning tomorrow morning. 1. Continue ongoing efforts to find the source of lead at Burr Elementary. 2. Begin manually flushing of all sinks at Burr Elementary each morning. My daughter does not need to wash her hands with toxic waste one more day. 3. Turn off fountains and issue bottled water at Cabot Elementary and begin an investigation that should have begun 11 years ago. 4. Release all lead testing results from all Newton schools since 2004 and expand communications beyond current students to alumni and former staff. 5. Develop a plan for expedient and comprehensive testing throughout the district. Any submerged icebergs must be found.
Jessica Sturdivant, and then Matt Mahoney and Meredith Berg.
And then she can distribute it to us.
Sorry?
If you want to share that with Lisa, she can distribute that to us.
I've already shared it with Lisa.
Okay.
You should have the testing results already.
Thank you. Oh, that's good.
So after Jessica, Matt, and Meredith.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Sturdivant. I live at 12 Lowell Avenue in Newton, Massachusetts. I have a 1st grade son and 2 daughters who will be entering kindergarten this fall at Burr Elementary. I am an epidemiologist. The staff, teachers, and principal at Burr have created an excellent, supportive educational community of which we are very proud to be a part. Recent water testing has revealed problems with both infrastructure and district-level management of information and test results. While 2016 test results have been provided in an accurate and timely manner, it has become evident that transparency was lacking in test result communication from 2005 and 2010. Given the dangers posed by sustained lead exposure, particularly in children and pregnant women, Michael Grubb and I requested and obtained public record of historical water test results. In reviewing these results, we hope to better understand Burr community's possible exposure period to water contaminated with lead. We were surprised to find that the 2005 and 2010 lead results at Burr were elevated. In fact, the 2010 results were 4 times higher than the limit defined by the EPA as fit for human consumption. The CDC notes that, quote, lead is associated with negative outcomes in children, including impaired cognitive, motor, behavioral, and physical abilities. Lead exposure can be dangerous to pregnant women and neonates. As noted by Bellinger and others, lead does not have a clear threshold at which negative effects become apparent, meaning that with low levels of exposure over a sustained period of time, effects from lead may be observed. In response to this research, the CDC lowered its definition of actionable blood lead levels to 10 micrograms per deciliter, and effects such as IQ reduction have been observed in those with less than 10 micrograms per deciliter in a venous blood measure. This is in part due to the way the body processes lead. Lead does not persist in the bloodstream, but rather accumulates in the liver, kidney, brain, and bones. Sustained exposure, particularly at a young age, can have persistent, long-lasting effects. Moving forward, I would like to better understand the plan for dissemination of information to teachers and staff who have become pregnant or nursed while serving at Burr, and alumni. Plans need to be developed and shared with the Burr community at large regarding distribution of results both within limits and elevated to achieve transparency and earn back trust. In planning for the June 13th meeting, the superintendent has indicated that there will be invited specialists, including physicians. I would like to see leading public health experts such as Dr. Joel Schwartz from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, Dr. David Bellinger from Boston Children's Hospital, or similar, to provide information on lead and associated health effects, public health impact, and sustained exposure. The importance of this issue cannot be overestimated. Since 2005, when officials became aware of high lead levels at Burr Elementary, there have been approximately 800 students exposed during extremely susceptible developmental periods. Thank you for your time.
Matt, and then Meredith.
Matt Mahoney, 79 Border Street, West Newton, Massachusetts. I am the father of a kindergarten student at Burr School. I have a strong background in genetics and neurobiology and currently run the tissue biorepository at Brigham and Women's Hospital. As parents, we have the responsibility to nurture and develop our children in a safe environment. As a biologist, I recognize that we are falling well short of upholding this primary responsibility. We, the parents of Burr, are asking for the school committee's help in approaching the Mass DEP guidelines that Michael Grubb has thus far introduced us to. Please now refer to the lead monitoring and control handout that Michael has made available. Point 1, the Mass DEP recommends sampling all fixtures in every school every 3 to 5 years. 1 out of every 3 drinking water fountains should be sampled annually to establish a baseline. Between the years of 2004 and 2015, Newton Public Schools was only testing 2 fixtures in 2 schools every 6 months. Based on the known rate of testing and assuming that the 7 water outlets tested in the second round represent a comprehensive testing group, which it should based on the retest recommendations, we are looking at a 7-fold deficit in the amount of testing that Mass DEP recommends. We are advocating for Newton Public Schools to increase the frequency and level of testing in accordance with Mass DEP recommendations. Point 2 deals with the transparency in communications, and Meredith Berg will be speaking to this point shortly. Point 3, Mass DEP has developed a 9-step comprehensive response plan that you could find attached to the handout. Step 1 indicates that the problem fixtures should be immediately shut off if the sample reveals lead in excess of 15 micrograms per liter. Ensuing steps recommend retesting. To our knowledge, Newton Public Schools failed to take any action after elevated results were seen in 2005, and further failed to retest when sampling in 2010 revealed a level of lead in the water that was 4 times in excess of the EPA's recommendation. Considering the response to the 2016 Burr test results, Newton Public Schools is close to adhering to the plan, but we want to be sure that they continue to hit the benchmarks. Ultimately, while we realize that it is voluntary for Newton Public Schools to adhere to the guidelines put forth by Mass DEP, it is not optional to put our children at risk of lead poisoning, as they have been for the past 11 years. Thank you.
And Meredith? Go ahead.
Good evening. Meredith Berg, 18 Auburndale Avenue, West Newton. I'm a mother of a 6-year-old kindergartner and a 7-year-old first grader at Burr School, which we love, like everybody else has mentioned. I would like to talk about the school system's communications with parents over the past few weeks regarding the level of lead found at Burr. The topic is, of course, linked to the value of transparency, which to me is unequivocally linked to the poor level of trust we parents now have in our school leaders. To begin, the first correspondence from Mayor Warren and Superintendent Fleischman, dated May 17th, was alarming in its language by telling parents the water level, quote, tested high for lead levels, without providing the broader perspective of what a high lead count means, greater than 15 parts per billion, as we know now. This information was not provided, and that's baffling and frustrating. The specific levels of lead at Burr should have been revealed at the time of the first letter, not as in the letter dated one day later, May 18th. Perhaps a better and less alarming strategy may have been to let parents know before April vacation that the water was to be tested for lead, perhaps by noting that this was made in light of Flint, Michigan. Then we could have been able to understand what the implications were if lead was found. As a side note, as we have mentioned, if you look back at Burr's past testing to 2005, you may have strongly suspected that lead might have been found above actionable levels, because indeed it has tested high 11 years ago, as we know now. This knowledge could have helped you mitigate some of the transparency issues we parents have at this point, and it might have given us more confidence in your abilities to get ahead of the issue. And while we are glad the city says it has tested water for the past 14 years on a rotating basis, it's baffling why lead was found, if lead was found at Burr in 2005, and again in 2010, why our school was not tested at more regular intervals. When the 2016 tests were revealed, again, transparency would dictate that you would reveal past testing history at the school to the entire community for perspective. You chose not to. Moving on to your letter to Burr families dated June 3rd, which was in response to the letter we wrote to Mayor Warren and Superintendent Fleischman dated June 1st, you note the remediation plan for the sink that tested at 60.2 parts per billion in 2010, but you fail to note that the city did not put the remediation plans in place until 2 years later in 2012, per a letter that we obtained from the Department of Environmental Protection. Again, you chose not to. In addition, Newton CEO Dory Zalesnik told the Globe in a May 17th article that there were, quote, no problems at Burr in 2010, but later backpedaled in a June 3rd letter when pressed by a reporter. This is bad form. This makes me wonder what else you are not telling us. In other words, what are you choosing not to tell us? Anyway, you choose not to answer also our letter from June 3rd. You chose not to answer certain things in that letter, and it makes me wonder why. Why have you not been direct about 2005, 2010, and 2012 with the rest of the community? Thank you.
Okay, Barbara John, and then Tim Curry.